Theropod dinosaurs were the most physically powerful land predators in the history of planet Earth, and appeared in a variety of forms during their Mesozoic dominance. From fleet-footed, sickle-clawed killers to bulky, bone-crushing giants, nonavian theropods were such evolutionary successes that it took a space apocalypse to take them out. But during their 150 million year reign as the apex predators on land, they had to eat something. So how did they go about getting their food? Let's go over theropod hunting strategies, contrasting how they captured prey across different taxonomic groupings and body size ranges, including behavior, biomechanics, and ecological roles. This video is sponsored by Brilliant. Some elements we'll discuss apply to most or all non-avian theropods. One biomechanical trait that gave a big advantage to larger theropods in particular is known as seismic camouflage, and was discovered in a 2018 study by Ernesto Blanco and his team. Essentially, big theropods had a soft tissue structure on the underside of their three-toed feet that masked the directionality of their big, lumbering footsteps. Prey animals like hadrosaurs, ceratopsians, or sauropods may have been able to tell that some large animal was approaching, but wouldn't have been able to sense which direction the potential threat was coming from. This would make ambushes far easier from a predator's perspective, especially if you're big enough to shake the earth when moving. Imagine a carnivorous elephant and give it stealth mode. Something else shared by most theropods, particularly the carnivores, was the same basic body plan. There are herbivorous outliers like Segnosaurs, which looked like Freddy Krueger turkeys, but most non-avian theropods had large jaws, medium to small arms, and large legs and tails. The animals we're discussing today follow that general design. First, we'll cover some carnivorous dinosaurs that aren't especially large, falling short of the 5-ton minimum to count as megatheropods, but they're really interesting. I doubt that most of you would raise a complaint about being subjected to more information on the coolest animals ever. Raptors are an obvious choice for theropods with debated feeding and hunting mechanics. Pop culture depicts them as fast, hyper-intelligent pack hunters that use their sickle claws as auditory signals and set complex ambushes. While I doubt that Dromaeosaurs had problem-solving abilities on par with corvids and dolphins, they are the closest of the non-avian theropods to birds, and share broadly similar brain structures. Old models had Dromaeosaurs using their iconic sickle claws as gutting tools to slice open the bellies or sides of large prey, like the classic image of Deinonychus taking down Tyrannosaurus. Modern biomechanical analyses like Fowler et al. 2011 and Giannacchini et al. 2020 suggest the raptor prey restraint model, or RPR. This model notes the anatomical similarities between dromaeosaurs and modern birds of prey like eagles and hawks, and proposes that dromaeosaurs would use their sickle claws to hold down prey while eating them alive. Their relatively weak jaws weren't as capable of dealing out powerful finishing blows against much larger animals, which actually made things more painful for their victims. Interestingly, Giannacchini et al. 2020 found that Dromaeosaurs had more powerful grips with their claws than their fast, slender Unenlagine cousins, showing a geographical and taxonomic difference in hunting niches. The Gondwanan groups would generally focus on smaller prey, while the more robust Laurasian Dromaeosaurs may have tackled bigger game relative to their body size. Gregariousness in Dromaeosaurs is hotly debated to this day. Groups of Dromaeosaurs like Deinonychus and Utahraptor have been found together, which to some paleontologists indicates pack hunting, while others regard it as a chaotic mobbing behavior. I certainly wouldn't rule either behavior out, but would point to modern crocodilians engaging cooperative hunting, as reported by Vladimir Dene. We do have trackways from large African and Chinese raptors showing that they traveled together in groups, which gives a hint at their tactical and social brilliance. Speaking of brilliance, raptors may have gained their coordinated intelligence by downloading Brilliant, the best science and math-based learning app around. Brilliant helps you become a better thinker and problem solver, with thousands of visual, interactive lessons in math, science, programming, data analysis, and AI. It's a daily, positive habit-building educational application that helps you learn and practice concepts from scientific thought, engineering, physics, and math. 9 out of 10 large-brained dromaeosaurs recommend using Brilliant Science course, which is my personal favorite as well. The one dromaeosaur that doesn't is now a bum living on the streets. Brilliant uses gamified experience points to reward you for practicing and learning every day, and can sharpen your mind, helping you see the world around you clearly as you engage with it critically. You can familiarize yourself with practical concepts without the boredom of a classroom lecture. There's no homework, just positively reinforced daily exercises that reward you for your consistency. To learn for free on Brilliant, go to brilliant.org/Vividen, scan the QR code on screen, or click on the link in the description. Brilliant's also given our viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant. Megaraptorans are some of the most morphologically unique theropods. representing a lineage that predates the divide between carnosaurs and coelurosaurs. They're often large predators, with the genus Megaraptor comparable to the world record polar bear in body mass at 1 metric ton, and the largest, Mape macrothorax, comfortably in Indian elephant territory at well over 3 tons. Megaraptorans have long, slender skulls with short conical teeth in the premaxilla that would be good for biting directly downward into prey. Their maxilla, further back in the jaws, had more curved teeth. Megaraptoran arms are atypically large and powerful for big theropods, with massive muscle attachments and claws like fishhooks. They would have utilized them to grasp prey and bring them closer, as well as perhaps causing significant damage. Their somewhat thin skulls may imply a focus on relatively small game, but their tyrannosaur-like tooth pattern and scythe-like arms imply capacity for larger prey capture as well. They likely would have been able to take on small and medium animals consistently, with occasional forays into animals their own size. Ceratosaurids are a very diverse group of small to medium-sized theropods, and include some of pop culture's most famous dinosaurs in their storied ranks. They generally have tall, ornamented skulls, as you'll shortly see, with some extremely bizarre adaptations. Noasaurids are the least famous group within Ceratosauria. They include some toothless beaked herbivores like Lemusaurus, which shall not be discussed here because it's not particularly relevant to the thesis of the video. Mexicasaurus is perhaps my favorite noasaurid, and you can check out my interview with Dr. Dave Krause, its discoverer, on the channel. A native of Cretaceous Madagascar, Mexicasaurus was a small game hunter with possible facultative frugivory. It would probably have used its outward-facing teeth to snag up small animals like lizards, frogs, and large invertebrates, and potentially even fruit. One possible noasaurid is the mysterious and lost Bahariasaurus from northern Africa, an animal that has as many possible identities as there are theropods from the region. I don't understand it, and I don't believe that anybody truly does, although some people are better at pretending that they do. Andrea Cow has some hot takes on the subject if you're interested. I might tackle the monumental task of making a Bahariasaurus video one day, but it will require a degree of mental focus and willpower that I do not currently possess. Ceratosaurids include the genus that Ceratosauria was named for. You guessed it, Ceratosaurus. This is Robert Bacher's favorite dinosaur, thanks to its unique and distinctive morphology. A mid-sized theropod, Ceratosaurus was about the size of a large Kodiak bear and had complex ornamental crests on its skull. It's slenderly built but has huge teeth. Ceratosaurus teeth are very common around watery areas in the Morrison Formation, leading some paleontologists to hypothesize that it lurked around waterways and may have dabbled in hunting semi-aquatic prey in addition to scavenging. Its ecology is still quite poorly understood, but I doubt it would have turned down hunting small to medium prey like Camptosaurus if the opportunity arose. Whatever it ate, its head was definitely its chief weapon. Abelisaurids are also grouped within Ceratosauria, although they've received quite a bit of pop culture exposure thanks to Disney's Dinosaur and Prehistoric Planet. Abelisaurids are long-legged, box-headed, tiny-armed murder sausages with short, deep skulls. A 2025 study found that Abelisaurids were likely specialized hunters that sprinted to capture prey and seized them with their large skulls, despite their relatively weak bites. Their arms were useless for prey capture, but had high ranges of motion in the shoulder, implying some type of display function a la Prehistoric Planet. Allosaurus had a mad lad mentality with crazy pathologic density. Allosaurus in general is known from a very high sample size for a theropod, and consequently, we understand its behavior quite a bit better than most other dinosaurs. The animal seemed to have even less self-preservation instinct than my cat. The dude is always trying to trip me or jump in the bathtub even though he knows he hates water. Allosaurus is known to have routinely battled against and been horribly injured by Stegosaurus, with somewhat healed wounds showing that getting impaled was a regular occurrence. More on that in my prehistoric trauma video. For successful hunts, Allosaurus would have used its jaws as its primary weapon. While they weren't specialized for hard bites, as Rowe and Rayfield 2025 demonstrate, they could still leave permanent marks on stegosaur dorsal plates. Their teeth were laterally compressed and sharp without being terribly thick, good for slicing and pulling out chunks of flesh. A 2013 study found that Allosaurus was likely to have eaten carcasses like modern raptor birds, darting the head down and pulling flesh back, and could have lunged quickly to bite live prey. According to a 2024 study, their relatively large arms, equipped with meat-hook claws, served as secondary weapons that could have gripped the sides of prey during bites or held down their victims, but didn't have the range of motion to reach in front of the mouth. They could have grasped prey, but only beneath the jaws and neck. In Allosaurus annex in particular, the claws were enormous. I can't imagine that they wouldn't have played a significant role in either prey capture or post-mortem prey handling during the feeding process. Developing claws that massive is energetically costly, and I wonder if they may have been an honest signal of health to potential mates in addition to being functional feeding tools. Remember, evolution of traits is often multi-purpose. Carcharodontosaurs were a derived clade within Allosauroidea, resulting in many of the biggest theropods of all time, including sauropod specialists like Carcharodontosaurus proper, Giganotosaurus, and Meraxes. The North American Acrocanthosaurus was the apex predator of North America for a long time before Tyrannosaurs took over, and is actually one of the most important species in my military fantasy series Extinction. Extinction is an alternate history of Earth where humans from ancient civilizations across the world are born with bonding gems corresponding to different prehistoric animals. The first book, Obsidian Dawn, releases on September 19th and begins the story of a war between Carthage and the Aztecs. But they all have psychic dinosaurs. I think it's pretty cool, and if it sounds interesting to you, I recommend checking out the pre-order on Amazon. Physical copies will be available on release day as well. Anyway, Carcharodontosaurs took the ventroflexion specializations of Allosaurus and added healthy skeletal robusticity to the mix. They got enormous and thick, compared to how Allosaurus was typically quite slender. Carcharodontosaurus, while only known from a partial skull, is likely in the 7 to 8-ish ton range, while Giganotosaurus is even bigger, at 8 to 9 tons with the holotype. Acrocanthosaurus likely mass between 5 and nearly 8 tons, depending on the specimen and methodology, with Meraxes and Taurovenator on the lower end of that range. Then there's Mapusaurus, Tyrannotitan, you get the point. This family of theropods got really big, and they did it more consistently than any other theropod group. Biomechanical studies show that their biting habits were relatively similar to Allosaurus, with low skull stresses indicating non-extreme bite forces. I say non-extreme, but you have to remember that at this scale, these long, somewhat gracile skulls are still putting tens of thousands of newtons of force on each rear tooth. Megacarchs weren't interested in crushing bone or armor, because they lived with sauropods, whose main defense was their sheer size. They would prefer to rip out huge chunks of meat with their thin cutting teeth, causing immediate shock and massive blood loss, and then feasting at will. Giganotosaurus was found in 2002 to have a focus on biting quickly with power sufficient to cut through flesh. Taurovenator had imbricated cervical spines, which means that its neck bones were heavily reinforced and designed for supporting significant impacts. It could have struck its prey like a battering ram with open jaws. Meraxes shared a similarity with a group of smaller theropods. One of its toe claws on each foot was massively developed, and is believed to have been used as a restraining tool while the theropod ate its struggling prey alive. There isn't much anything cooler than a 6-ton carnivore acting like a raptor. I would say that I'm sorry for liking Tyrannosaurs more than any other animal group, but I would be lying. They're just that awesome. Tyrannosaurs have 3 overall body types for the purposes of this video. The lightweights, exemplified by Chenjosaurus, the intermediates like Albertosaurus, and the heavies, Tyrannosaurus proper, Tarbosaurus, etc. Each body type would have had a different hunting style and niche, and together they create a spectrum from gracile to uber robust. Alioramines are a great example of lightweight tyrannosaurs. They lived in late Cretaceous Asia and are only known from 2 genera, Alioramus and Chenjosaurus, and were slimly built with long, thin skulls. They focused on speed over power, and boy did it work. They would have been able to keep pace with modern ostriches while weighing as much as a big polar bear, ambushing fast prey and taking them down with sharp bites. I'd also classify Dryptosaurids in this category thanks to their relatively small size and light build, but Dryptosaurids had huge hand claws that would have been much more effective than those of their more Tyrannosaurian adjacent cousins. As you might expect, Tyrannosaur intermediates are varied. We have the small genera like Lythronax and Teratophonius, the latter of which is thought to have traveled and possibly hunted in groups, along with the bigger, speed plus power, don't use your arms builds like Albertosaurus, Gorgosaurus, and fully grown Appalachiosaurus. This body type had strong jaws and fast running within a single animal, able to crack bone and rip out huge chunks of flesh from fleeing enemies. Tyrannosaurs in general were twice as agile as Allosaurids of the same size, which was a necessary adaptation to take on the fleet-footed hadrosaurs and fast-turning ceratopsians that many of them hunted. We see quite a bit of generalization enter the destroyer body type with Tarbosaurus, which at 4 to 5 plus tons was comparable to bull African bush elephants. Endocast studies demonstrate that it had keen hearing, sight, and smell, similar to other tyrannosaurs, which would have helped it locate a variety of prey items. According to isotopic and pathology studies, those would have included big hadrosaurs, Deinocheirus, sauropods, and ankylosaurs. Bite forces also crank up compared to smaller tyrannosaurs and other theropods, with Tarbosaurus being comparable to the much larger Carcharodontosaurus. Big tyrannosaurs opted for sheer crushing and pinning power, even those that routinely hunted titanosaurs like Tarbosaurus. Tyrannosaurus rex had such insane volumes of jaw muscles that a 2025 study found that at equivalent size, most other theropod skulls would simply fall apart under the pressure of their own bite with that much muscle. Tyrannosaurians had significantly widened posterior portions of the skull to host the muscles, enabling them to handle the higher stress levels associated with their legendary bites. Sakamoto 2022 found that typical 8 to 9 ton T-Rex adults would have anterior or front of the mouth bite forces of 25,000 newtons, a stunning figure. They didn't sacrifice speed for power either. Snively and Russell 2007 indicates that Tyrannosaurus could actually bite very quickly thanks to its extremely developed neck musculature. Gregariousness is a factor that has to be addressed in a conversation about apex predators and their hunting behaviors. Various tyrannosaurs across multiple size ranges have been found in groups, including Teratophonius, Albertosaurus, Daspletosaurus, and Tyrannosaurus itself. There was also a trackway in Canada that preserved the footprints of 3 large tyrannosaurs moving together, likely as a group. It's unknown if this behavior would vary with age within a given species, but the evidence is certainly, well, it's there. You just have to decide what to do with it. Megalosauroids include both the terrestrial beast mode Megalosaurids, like Torvosaurus, and the waterside hybrid freakazoids, like Spinosaurus. Torvosaurus was one of the biggest land predators of the Jurassic at 4 to 5 plus tons, barely in megatheropod territory. It had powerful arms with large claws, along with a long skull that could deliver a strong bite. It was hypothesized that, given its rarity and large size, it would have specialized in taking down and scavenging sauropods, and may have also eaten other predators when necessary. Oh, Spinosaurids, you bizarre children of crocodiles and herons, how we love you. This family is divided into 2 major groups. The Baryonychinae, which includes the more sleek-bodied, curved-toothed forms like Baryonyx and Suchomimus, and the Spinosaurinae, which has the sail-backed, straight-toothed morphs like Spinosaurus and Irritator. Baryonyx was a perfectly capable generalist, as evidenced by a 1997 report of how the holotype contained iguanodontid material as well as fish inside of its stomach. Members of the Spinosaurinae tend to be more specialized for capturing fish, but were capable of taking on other prey as well. We've found irritator teeth in the neck vertebra of a pterosaur after all. A 2023 study found that Irritator in particular had extremely flexible lower jaws. This mechanical adaptation would increase the range of prey size it could take in, as well as the speed with which it could bite, although the strength of said bite was low. It's a little Lovecraftian, but pop off, King. Spinosaurus aegypticus proper is a mess, mainly because we don't really know what that even is right now. The holotype was destroyed in 1944, the neotype is mad fragmentary, and most of our other S. aegypticus specimens are chunks of dentaries or rostra. The subadult specimen published in 2014 has yielded a great deal of information about the genus, but some researchers maintain that Sigilmosasaurus and or Australalia are synonyms with Spinosaurus. However the taxonomy ends up shaking out, the ecology of the animal will likely still be debated. There are currently 2 camps of paleontologists with warring papers back and forth. Paul Sereno's side, who insists that Spinosaurus was a poor swimmer and did not actively hunt in the water column, and Nizar Ibrahim's side, who point to the paddle tail and dense bones as evidence it was an aquatic predator. I tend to fall in the middle, where I think it could have swam just fine if it needed to, but likely would have stalked large fish in the shallows of river system or lakes, while taking terrestrial prey on occasion. I can't disprove the other options though, so take that as Vividen headcanon. Spinosaurus was also a large theropod, with a subadult at over 11 meters and 3,400 kilograms. Larger fragments that may or may not belong to the same species indicate much bigger individuals, with lengths and masses as high as 14 plus meters and 7.4 plus tons respectively. At those sizes, this African Spinosaurian could have easily taken on giant contemporary fish like the human-sized Onchopristis and car-sized Mawsonia. If I catch any of y'all calling Spinosaurus weak for hunting fish, goodness, try wrestling a Mawsonia and eating it with your teeth. Let me know how it goes. Which nonavian theropod hunting style do you find the most interesting? Heck, which bird hunting style do you find the most interesting? I'd also like to do an herbivore version of this covering the various defenses developed to protect against the animals we covered in this video, so let me know if that sounds interesting. Don't forget to follow the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to try out Brilliant for free, and to get 20% off a premium account. You can also check out Extinction Obsidian Dawn on Amazon, and if it's already released by the time you're watching this, physical copies are now available. Join the channel for access to loyalty badges and shoutouts at the Raptor level, with early access to videos at the Megatheropod level. I'm the Vividen, and I'll see you next time.